NBA executives were eager to move on from the investigation.
Is there any concern at all that there may have been other referees involved in this particular ring?
No other guys involved. It's just an isolated incident. One official means that he's in this by himself for the most part. But at the end of the day, I think Tim Donaghy is the only official in this because it's an isolated incident.
There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that indicts other officials of any kind of wrongdoing.
A rogue, isolated criminal.
Yo, what's good? So I've been gone for a couple months, yeah, but now we're back. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and don't forget to drop a like if you do, and subscribe to the channel for future videos. But now, the real reason you're here, let's get into it. July 2007. Reports of an ongoing FBI investigation are made public involving NBA referee Tim Donaghy for allegedly betting on NBA games which he was officiating in. Of course, fans were outraged and tons of people were not surprised refs were being linked to fixing games in the first place. This was something we had never seen before. A referee in a major professional sport directly being accused of fixing games and profiting from them. It was reported Donaghy had started betting games years earlier and was linked to organized crime. David Stern immediately came out and said the NBA was going to do a full investigation and how serious this was to be taken. He also made it clear to the public this was an isolated incident, which we have already heard many times. Now, ultimately, about a year later, Donaghy pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 15 months in prison. The NBA did their best to essentially erase these memories from fans' minds and assured us Donaghy was one bad apple out of the bunch. Nowadays, newer fans of the league, especially younger kids these days, may not even know this story with how much the NBA likes to hide it. But since Donaghy has been out, he has not been shy with sharing information on the NBA's officiating and the way they conducted business while he was a part of it.
I knew what the crew was going to go out and do that night and how a team was going to be put at an advantage. Maybe there was an emphasis that day on Kobe Bryant going to the basket, and there was a DVD sent in last week of plays that were missed by the referees. So I knew when the league came in and said, hey, listen, there's a problem here. Phil Jackson just sent in this DVD. 25 plays, Kobe getting fouled, and nobody blowing the whistle. I knew the three of us were going to go out that night, and he was going to go to the line 25 times, and they were going to win by 15. I picked the games based on relationships that existed between referees and players, referees and coaches, and referees and owners, and what took place in the morning meetings with the referees and what was going to be called that night and how a team was going to be put at an advantage or disadvantage.
Now, I understand that Tim Donaghy is a convicted felon and that he could just be doing this for publicity and all that, but he 100% raises a ton of questions. Why is the NBA allowing owners to essentially get into the refs' heads in hopes of getting more or less calls for their team? And why was Donaghy able to be so successful at betting or giving advice to games that he was not even officiating? Was Tim Donaghy the scapegoat for the NBA and just the fall man for a much bigger issue? Does the league take too much control over how the game plays out and the way they're officiated? Is the NBA rigged?
They did different things to plant seeds in the NBA office and the referee's mind if they felt that their star player wasn't getting the treatment that they deserved. Mark Cuban really started to go overboard with that and bombard the league office with situations where he felt his team was getting screwed. Most of the referees hated his guts because they felt that our job was made harder because of all the complaints that he did, which made us have to break more tape down and file more reports based on the fact that they wanted us to monitor our calls more. And it was because he was sending stuff into the league office and he was asking, why don't the referees do this? Where's the breakdown from the referees on what's a correct call and what's an incorrect call? Mark's biggest gripe was, and he was 100% right, is that there was so much subjectivity and the rules weren't being enforced as they were written in the rule book.
The Mark Cuban example left me torn on how I felt about it. Was he going over the top and trying to persuade the refs of his team being unfairly officiated? Is he just a smart businessman who knows how to get an edge and into the head of the officials? Or is he just truly a man who believes in the rules and the rule book and just wanted every game to be officiated the same? Now, one could argue the NBA is trying to just improve the overall officiating in the league, but in between playoff games, how will there be any consistency if after every game the refs are switching the way they call it? If Donaghy really was so accurate at betting games he didn't even officiate, how can we say the refs did not manipulate these games? Refs shouldn't know the most likely outcome of a playoff game before even stepping on the floor, and shouldn't know which players will go to the line more often. If the league is pushing down directions basically from owners about how the officiating needs to be fixed, does the league listen to all of them or only certain owners, specifically big market teams? Over the years, there have been tons of conspiracy theorists who argue in the past that the NBA has refused to let small market teams win NBA championships, and maybe these two things are connected. Why can't they be? Next up, we got the personal vendettas against certain players and even teams, and the fact Donaghy knew how a lot of games would be officiated just based on how the crew was going to react to those players and how they meshed and their history together. Having a referee that gives special treatment to some players but harsher towards others completely defies having rules in the league. Even just certain rules like carrying the ball. We all know this is something that never gets called, but sometimes it's just magically enforced much more than other times.
There was one game where Allen Iverson threatened Steve Javie, and we felt as a staff he should have been suspended, but he was only fined $25,000. I had the next game, and the two referees and myself in the morning meeting decided that Allen Iverson, although he carries the ball all the time and it's never called, we were going to enforce that rule against him that night. And we went out in the first half, and we all each took a turn. You know, we had a pact. We're all going to call a palming violation on him, and we did that. And I did tell, Tommy to bet against Denver that night. And Iverson came up to me during a free throw, and he said, "Tim, how long is this going to go on for?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You know what I'm talking about." And I just smirked, and he smirked, and he knew it was, he was going to have a problem for the next couple of games for what he did.
And of course, no one forgets the infamous Joey Crawford ejection of Tim Donaghy while he was on the bench for smiling. Over the years, it's been pretty much understood each player is also officiated differently. The biggest names in sports get the most calls and even get away with many as well. Sometimes a ref giving magical fouls to other players on the Stars team to pretty obviously spare him of foul trouble or fouling out completely. And you know what? While we're talking about Joey Crawford and his more than emotional calls over the years, that leads us to another NBA ref that should have really gone down just like Donaghy did, but the NBA pretty much looked the other way and moved on with only one bad apple falling from the tree. That's the one and only Scott Foster. Originally reported by Fox News, Foster received a remarkable 134 phone calls from Donaghy between October 2006 and April 2007, which was allegedly the time that Donaghy was involved with betting on games. 134 calls may be hard to judge when you look at how many times he called other officials in the league. You find out that he never called anyone else more than 13 times. I mean, something's up. Donaghy calls to Foster took place immediately before and after games that Donaghy was officiating 54 times, and that doesn't help but add to the controversy. I mean, Donaghy calling Foster before and after games and then calling his guy to put the bets in. I mean, there's no way it's just a coincidence. Foster tried to clear his name, and that was that. He's gone on to screw over many teams over the years and has been known for appearing to be one-sided, usually just negatively towards one side, and sometimes even in the playoffs he's been heavily criticized. The Rockets and the Warriors, pretty much most recently. Ultimately, there is so much more to the Tim Donaghy scandal that we will probably never even find out. As the black eye in the NBA from that scandal already seems to be gone, many people who watch the game will always have their suspicions, and many took the scandal as a confirmation for what they already thought about the NBA and the way it's run. Sometimes the way seasons and playoff series play out, it just always happens to work out perfectly to generate more money as well as publicity. Donaghy has always claimed that Dick Bavetta used to openly talk about how he was sent to the Game 6s to ensure the Game 7s in the series, which more than obviously gives fans another game to watch and generate a lot more money for the league.
He openly said to a lot of us that he was the NBA's go-to guy. He was put on Game 6s to make sure they went to a Game 7.
And of course, he is most notably known for Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and Kings, one of the most controversial sporting events of all time. I actually have a video about that Kings team. If you guys want to watch that, I'll put it above. And do we really need to mention Tony Brothers and his plenty, and I mean plenty, of controversial calls, ejections, you name it, over the years? But there is one main problem with all these ideas, and that's a simple fact that blaming refs is basically an American sport. Everyone hates the refs in any sport, and of course they make bad calls from time to time. Was this really just one bad apple, and did we just want there to be more? Or is there really much more that the NBA will never let be revealed? Why did the NBA investigation end so quickly without much effort? Does the NBA really push down how games need to be reffed and owners voice their opinions? Does the NBA do what they can to push better storylines as well as force more games and series? Will small market teams ever stand a chance? At the end of the day, the NBA is a business, and who's to say the ones pulling the strings at the top don't have their own agendas they want met? Who's to say the entertainment of the league and the revenue it generates may be more important than fairness and competitiveness in the game of basketball? Let me know what you guys think about the NBA, if it's really actually rigged, and about the whole Tim Donaghy scandal. And until next time, peace.